level of communication is what I call upward communication. Upward communication. And this communication is aimed, or this level of communication is aimed at relaying or relating information to your superiors, to people above you. And that must be done respectfully and the way it is expected. So can somebody give me an example of upward communication? A project defense, beautiful. That's an example of what? Upward communication. Let's bring it down to organizational level. So I want to give you an example of upward communication. Yes? Beautiful. Presenting reports to your boss. Presenting what? Report your supervisor, to your boss, to your superior. It is a form of what? Communication. And most of the time in organizations, they would have told you how it should be done. The format the report must take. Give me another example of upward communication. A job interview, yes. I don't want us to go too far. Give me an example of upward communication outside of talking, after of speaking. Writing letter to your boss, seeking permission to travel. Writing letter seeking funding for your, for instance, you want to write to the church now, church leadership, to request for fund for your forthcoming choir concert. It is what? It is what? An upward communication. You are a unit member. You are applying to your unit leader that you will not be around next Sunday, seeking permission not to be around next Sunday. It is called what? Upward communication. And one key thing that must be in that communication is what? Respect and honor for the office that you are communicating to, or to the person you are communicating to. So you can't use the same tone, you can't use the same language as though you are communicating with your what? With your colleague. That's why writing CV is one of the most detailed and most painstaking writings you can ever do. Because you are even communicating to a boss you do not know. So upward communication, that's an example. The second one is downward communication. Downward communication. So by the understanding of upward communication, you should know what downward communication. So somebody should tell me, what is downward communication? Good. So it is a communication with your subordinate, with people down your line of leadership. Now, that level of communication must be done with utmost clarity. Utmost what? Clarity. Why? To avoid doubt, assumptions, and confusion. It must be done with utmost clarity. Downward communication. So what are the forms of expressions of downward communication? Who can tell me? What are the ways? We mentioned examples of upward communication. Who can tell me some of the examples of downward communication? This side of my class, I'm not in class, so I'll point at you. Edidion, you're in the corporate world, so you know what I'm talking about. Give me an example of a downward communication. You say what? I'm not hearing you. Instruction. All right. When the boss gives what? Instruction. Gives you a task to his community. You are communicating to your subordinate a task that should be what? To be done. It could also involve communicating the vision to the subordinate, to the people that are coming to work with you. Being detailed about what they are supposed to do, communicating values. We mentioned quite a number of them last week. Another example of downward communication is what I call meetings. Somebody say meetings. Because most of the time, it is the boss that calls for what? Meetings. It's not the subordinate that calls for what? Meetings. So meetings are examples of what? Downward communication. Any other example of downward communication? Approval or rejection of what? Of applications. Sometimes memos are given that everybody in the organization must what? Must follow. So those are examples of what? Downward communication, and there is a way they must be presented. Some organizations have their formats. What I said, most importantly, downward communication must be done with what? Clarity. You know why? In some organization, the subordinate may not have the opportunity to come back and ask, hey, that thing you said that time, how did you even say it? They may not have that chance. So that one time you are going to have to have conversation with them, it must be done with what? With clarity. As a unit leader, for instance, you are moving your rehearsal time or meeting time from 4 o'clock to 2:30. It must be effectively communicated, and everybody must know it, understand it, and must be clear about the instruction. The third one is horizontal communication or same level communication. What is same level communication? It is communicating with your what? With your colleague. Communicating with your what? With your colleague. So you are all choir members. You are all drama unit members. There is a level of that is a level of communication. And one thing that must be in that level of communication is mutual respect for each other. What did I call it? Mutual respect for each other. Mutual respect for each other. The fourth one, because my time is up, is diagonal communication. Diagonal communication. It involves communication between a team member, one team member, and another kind of team member. So the choir member is communicating probably with what? A drama unit member on something that affects the two of them. Or the drama director is having conversation, is having a communication with who? With the choir director. For instance, the section and ushering unit members had complained. And anytime probably they have mopped the church, they have cleaned the church on Saturday, then they do their cleanup, I think finish by 4 or so. The decoration people will still be here, and the choir will still probably come in for rehearsals. Now, after they have done the cleanup and they have gone, by the time they come on Sunday morning, the choir members, not intentionally trying to spoil or dirty the church gets dirty. So that's a big problem. So the unit leader of the sexton unit now wants to meet with who? The unit leader of the choir, so that they can talk with each other and know how are we going to be able to walk through this. Is there going to be a change and adjustment in your time of rehearsals, or do we have to shut that door and open this door? That level of communication will always happen. Now this is the problem. When people don't know how to manage that level of communication, there is always rancor. There is always beef. There will always be quarrel and conflict. And when there is conflict, we will not have the results we're supposed to have. We will not even know why things are not moving well, because the choir will just say, like, we cannot change. It's not that the choir cannot change their time, but the approach that the section unit director brought will not allow the choir leader to do what? To adjust. So we're going to learn all of that. The last one is external communication. External communication, which is communicating beyond the scope of the organization. So this church now, as Victory Chapel, maybe we have to write a memo or a letter to the university, or we have to write to apply to use another church venue for an event. That is what? External communication. Or we have to make a broadcast to the world. We go on radio. We are on Facebook. We are on Instagram. All of that example of what? External communication. Sometimes they call it mass communication or mass media communication. So that is that. So next week, we are going to consider emotional intelligence in leadership communication, which is one of the things I've highlighted little by little, mutual respect and all. So we are going to look at emotional intelligence in what? Leadership communication. How you will say what you want to say, and the other person will not be offended, and you will get the result that you need. This is where we are going to call it a day today, because our time is already up. Good morning once again.